Can you hear me?
Yes, good morning, ma'am.
Yep, morning.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Good morning. Welcome to Quintegral Philippines, another webinar session, which is about finding your leadership voice. By the way, allow me to introduce myself. I am Sandra, the Operations Head and Training Solutions Manager of Quintegral Philippines. So by the way, the Finding Your Leadership Voice is the American Management Association's Voice of Leadership program that we offer via public program and in-house training program. This is just a sneak peek. This Finding Your Leadership Voice is just a sneak peek of course, the Voice of Leadership program of AMA and of course, Quintigral Philippines. So again, we offer this via public training programs and in-house training programs. Should you want to check our list of training programs, you may visit our website at www.quintigral.com. So allow me to introduce our facilitator for today, of course, our speaker. He has more than 10 years of experience in delivering training programs as a certified AMA facilitator. And of course, is an award-winning public speaker. And he's currently taking his PhD in business at De La Salle University. So he is none other than Mr. George Marchan.
Yes, hello and good morning, everyone. Good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome to Finding Your Leadership Voice is Strengthening Your Leadership Communication Skills and Honing Your Authentic Leadership Voice. I hope that you can see my screen and you can hear me clearly. If yes, can you give me a thumbs up icon in Zoom? Thank you so much, Ali. How about the others? Thank you so much, Sandra. Okay, let me just see. Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Wingang. Thank you, Attorney Aaron. Okay, great. Thank you so much. And I'm seeing a thumbs up sign through chat. Thank you, Cheryl. Thank you, Urbi. And I am seeing that actually we have participants in the Philippines and Singapore. Hello, everyone, wherever you are in the in the world right now. And I would say that we welcome you to this particular world-class workshop coming from Quintegral, American Management Association, and Chain OK. While it's a good thing because right now, quiet quitting or acting your wage is actually the trend today. And according to Gallup's 2022 report, 60% of employees are disengaged. Sadly, we have the pandemic, the increased pace of change, the great resignation. And right now, organizations are facing a new menace. And today, leaders need to learn how to engage employees better. For our session today, we will be covering and describing the framework of leadership and the voice of leadership. We'll be learning some of the traits of effective leaders and know what the components of a leader's voice. Furthermore, we're going to explain how can you find your leadership voice and at the same time, discover different ways to communicate with your employees and others. Okay. And again, of course, this is a very exciting workshop, but then again, this is a teaser for the overall program itself. And there's a saying that to lead well, one must communicate well. And actually, the learning objectives of the whole program itself, not just for this particular session, is to actually to leverage principles in terms of effective leadership communication to get and hold people's attention. In the session, we'll be talking about charisma, how to influence employees, and at the same time, how do we craft compelling messages? How do we communicate vision, mission, values? How do we align the person's goal to the company to make sure that we are able to balance those two needs? And at the same time, set the direction of the business and inspire people to do their best. And these are just some of the things that we would be discussing in the full program of learning the leadership voice. Okay. And in terms of the modules, there's actually 8 modules. There's a lot to discuss in this particular uh, workshop. The first is effective leaders, past and present. In here, we're going to assess, your personal history. What are the fantastic leaders you've had in the past? People you admire? What are the 5 traits of effective leaders and communicators? And how are these traits affecting the communication with direct reports? And of course, we have the second module, which is finding your leadership voice. We go to the nitty-gritty of what a leadership voice is all about and how can we find that. We're also going to discuss the different communication styles, and these communication styles are some of the things that we would be discussing later on. And in this one, we're also going to identify what specific leadership style are we going for specific instances. Okay, and in module 3, we talk about getting the attention of those people that you wish to lead. So somehow this is very similar to executive presence and gravitas. How can you generate the presence and charisma to hold people's attention? And of course, the 4th module talks about crafting a compelling message. So how do we craft messages that would resonate with the audience and make sure that it's relatable to them? It's about not only engaging employees or even your colleagues logically, but also emotionally. And then of course we also have setting the direction for others, or communicating a strategic direction, making sure that everyone is aligned. And of course we have inspiring others to do their best. It talks about motivation, building teams, emotional intelligence, and leveraging company culture. So there's a lot just for module 6 alone. And of course, for module 7, it talks about coaching, counseling, and mentoring performance. How do we differentiate between these 3? And typically people are confused. What's the difference between one another? And module 8 talks about addressing tough situation. So how do you discuss things that are difficult to explain? Sensitive issues, things that you shouldn't be discussing but needs to be discussed because of the sensitivity of the issue. How are you going to deliver bad news and unpopular changes, given that right now a lot of things are happening in companies? This is very timely. Okay. And now, what is leadership? When you think of the word leadership, what comes through your mind? Can you let me know through chat, or maybe you can unmute yourself? What runs through your mind when you think of the word leadership? I'm seeing that a lot of you are leaders here. You've been a leader for a while. Some of you may be new leaders wanting to know more. Some of you have been doing trainings in terms of leadership. Okay, some have sent a personal message. Okay, getting people to do things. Others have said inspiring people. Thank you so much for that, Robert. And let's see, how about others? Okay, thank you. And okay, so I would say that leadership is one of the most fulfilling profession if done right. Just imagine you're able to change the lives of people. And it's very interesting that we're talking about communication right now, because communication is one of the most important asset that you can have as a leader. With it, you can change the perspective of your employees. You can affect their lives. You can affect the lives of your team members. You can affect the lives of their families and the trajectory of their lives. And according to our presentation here, leadership is the ability to influence or inspire others to pursue the results envisioned by the leaders. There are 4 things that you need to keep in mind when we are talking about leadership. The first is leadership without followers is not leadership. The essence of leadership is people are willing to follow a leader. So that's already 2 things, a follower and a leader. And then the second is It's about influencing people. It's about inspiring people. So that's the third thing. And the fourth thing is that inspiration, that leadership, those followers requires to generate a result. Okay? You are pursuing a result that potentially may be envisioned by the leader himself or herself or the organization. Okay, so keep those in mind when we are defining leadership, when you're asked what leadership is all about. And the other thing is, what comes to your mind when you think of the phrase voice of leadership? Oh, there's another message here. Leadership is to inspire others. There's a message as well, leadership as a model of the handled department. Okay, thank you so much, Lorena, and the one that sent us a private message. So what comes to your mind when you think of the phrase voice of leadership? Voice of leadership. Is that just about the words we're saying? Aside from the words, what comes to your mind? Voice of leadership. Let's see. I'll wait for your responses. And good morning, Urbi. Good morning, Donna. Good morning, Lorena, Wengang, Cheryl, Romel. Okay, there's a lot of people here. Our time would be consumed if I greet everyone, but hey, just chat so that I can mention your name. Okay. So how the message is received and acted on, according to Bob. Thank you so much, Bob, for your message. There's a private message, a role model. The voice of leadership is being a role model. And there's another personal message. It's the ability to communicate. Okay. And how the people reflect. Wow. Wow. That was a great comment, Alex. How the people reflect, right? How you make people reflect. Yes, because communication is not one way, right? So that's a very good point. And Wing Gang is mentioning the ability to influence, how you inspire, how it's being heard. Yes, because communication is the responsibility of the communicator. Okay, great. How it's being heard. The voice of leadership is command people. Well, not necessarily command. Command is a very sensitive word actually because we're influencing them. Okay, but later on, there's a portion of leadership which is being direct. Okay, but potentially that's what you mean, and how the people cooperate. Okay, yeah, for sure, that's a part of it. But typically, voice of leadership is coming from the leader rather than the employees. Okay, but then there's a duality in terms of the voice of leadership, and those are very good inputs. Thank you so much for all of your messages. Okay. And when we say the voice of leadership, it's actually the effective use of communication to influence, inspire, and get results. Okay. As you can see there, we defined leadership earlier, and now we combine it with communication. Okay. Again, the voice of leadership is the effective use of communication to influence, inspire, and get results. It has three main components. First, we have the verbal message, which is what's being said. We have the vocal message, the tonality, the pacing, uh, the pitch. And then, of course, we have the visual message. Typically, it's a part of non-verbal message. Like, for example, is your gesture open or it's closed? When you're saying that, when you're saying congratulations, are you frowning? Congratulations. Instead of your message being received as congratulatory, people will think that you're being sarcastic. Okay. And the voice of leadership is very important right now because of the pandemic. Uh, I have a question, right? What were your leaders doing right during the pandemic in terms of the communication? Can you let me know what has been your experience in terms of leadership? What were your good experiences in terms of communication? What were your leaders doing right? Can you let me know through chat or you can unmute yourself? Okay? I'll wait for your responses. And while waiting for your responses, um, okay, there's a message here. Wow, constant reassurance. Yes, yes, you're correct, Mayor King. There's Zoom meetings to communicate with people, constant communication. Yes, 100%. Communication is very important, especially during the first few days of the pandemic. In the Philippines, that happened around March 17, March 18. And on that first day, it was really challenging for a lot of people because they don't know what to do. They don't know what to do. The employees on the ground don't know what to do. The leaders don't know what to do. Organizations don't know what to do. So just imagine the ambiguity that we need to deal at that point. So despite the lack of clarity, because of constant reassurance, because of the Zoom meetings, because of the constant communication, we were able to go through with the pandemic, right? Survive and thrive. Initially, people are complaining, I don't want to work from home. I don't have the setup. I don't have anything. I don't have my laptop here. I don't have my desktop here. And now, when people were being recalled to go back to the office, they don't want to go back, right? What's happening right now? There's the great resignation. That's one of the effects. And when people went back to the office, this engagement is really high. So how do we ensure that we communicate with people and that we provide exemplary leadership in terms of communication? We definitely need to imbibe different traits. Right now, authentic leadership is thriving. Authentic leadership is being true to yourself. What do we mean by being true to yourself? Being true to your employees. It's about being genuine, trustworthy, and realistic. Leaders are paragons. They're role models. We put them on a pedestal. We respect them. That's why when leaders make mistakes, we tend to lampoon them. And that's the challenge. Because leaders projected an image that they're infallible, that they can make a mistake. And authentic leadership is the opposite of that. It's showing people that you are human, that you might make a mistake, that you have your weaknesses. And frankly speaking, authentic leaders are actually better off because when their employees know their weaknesses and they're able to identify who among the team members have that weakness as a strength, then the leaders can leverage on the strength of that employee. I remember one of my weakness actually is organizing trips. Okay. And I've been a leader for more than 15 years. And since that's my Waterloo, I have an employee who's really into traveling, into tourism. So whenever I need to set up a team building, I would actually delegate the task to him or her because he knows more of the places and the activities we can do in terms of the places, right? So just imagine that the planning in terms of the place and potentially other additional activities that we can do and places we can be in. So that is one of the things that you can do. You can delegate some of the task because of that. And then of course, we have adaptability. Oh, the pandemic. Just imagine what happened. So we needed to shift work from home. Your kids needed to study at home. And then now you need to spend more time with your family. That's a good thing. But then of course, also your task at home increased because you're there now and you need to take care of the family. And many of us actually disengage the maids if you have them, household help. And we needed to adapt with a lot of stuff. And even at this moment, prices are increasing. I was just listening to the news an hour before our session today, and they're saying that In the rural areas of the Philippines, the price of electricity is almost double of the price here in Manila. And even the energy secretary is telling his wife to control their electricity intake. So just imagine that, right? There's so much adaptability, and leaders need to have that kind of mindset as well, because it's kind of difficult to lead people and tell them to adapt and be agile if the leaders themselves have a tough time adapting to change. And then, of course, definitely 100% as a definition of leadership, uh, we highlighted earlier, we need to be achievement oriented. Of course, we still need to, while we want to show care for our employees, while we would want to focus on their well-being as well, and then balance their life and work, we also need to keep in mind that we have business results to achieve, because the benefits that the company may be providing us, will be gone if we're not able to survive, especially during these downturn times. Just imagine the number of companies that laid off, streamlined, and restructured during the pandemic. Many industries consolidated because of the pandemic. And finally, despite all of these changes, we need to be positive. We need to be affirmative. We need to show hope. And there's actually a private message here, or a broadcast. Voice of leadership. One thing that the great leaders did is giving us advanced information and letting us talk every 3 p.m. So there's that social connection in terms of good leadership. And that's one way of being affirmative, being optimistic, positive, and appreciative. So some of you may have stopped providing quick recognition to your employee, the simple pat in the backs, you did good there. I like the way you did your presentation. The effect of that to our stakeholders, to your listeners are really good. Are you still able to commend your employees and your direct reports? Are you still able to provide positive feedback to the people around you? I hope yes. If yes, can you give me a heart icon in Zoom? Can you give me a heart icon if you're still able to do that? Okay, I'd appreciate it if you can, use the icons. Okay, give me a heart icon there. Okay. Thank you, Bob. And okay, so for the others, if not, then this is a reminder. Even a simple feedback through Facebook. Thank you, Lorena. Through Facebook, just give them a comment. Congratulations. That would help. A lot of people are depressed right now. They feel lonely. They feel alone. So that would greatly help. And finally, of course, we need to be attuned. We need to know what's happening around us. What's happening to our employees. During the initial part of the pandemic, and there's really a huge fear of them being infected around the latter part of 2020, there were a lot of managers that are not going into the field, and their employees are in the front lines. And I was asking them, how can you show leadership? How can you show that you care for your employees when you're not there with them? I understand that you are afraid, but then again, they're also afraid, but they're doing what needs to be done. And as leaders, we also need to know what's happening to our employees. Okay, I hope I'm making sense. And then there's a comment, giving promotions to my staff. I'm not sure what kind of promotion is that. Is that like a vertical promotion? Because not everyone can do that at this point. If that's a vertical promotion, yeah. Anyway, thank you so much. Thank you so much for that comment, Lorena. And let's see. So, how to find your leadership voice when we're communicating? There's two things that we need to keep in mind: what we want to say, and of course, how we say it. Okay, so earlier we were talking about your vocal message And then we talked about nonverbal gestures, which speaks about the tone of voice, the gestures that you have. Okay. And according to Gallup, when we're talking to our employees, we need to have growth oriented conversations. Earlier, I mentioned to you the quiet quitting, right? Acting your wage. People are disengaged because they think that whatever they're going to do at work, they won't be appreciated. They won't grow. They're disengaged. They don't know what's going to happen to their life. That's why leadership comes in right now. And one way to engage our employees is to actually discuss things that they can develop. It doesn't, by the way, I'm not saying promotion. I'm saying development, growth. Meaning to say, there are other ways to grow your career. You can do enrichment. Meaning to say, you increase the span of your work, you increase your responsibility, right? So that at least you grow yourself. Or you can do a lateral transfer aside from moving up. Because let's face it, right now, it may be challenging to move up given economic conditions. Companies are tightening their belts. And that's the key message. But the question is, how do you deliver that? Are you exuding genuine care? I've been a leader for a very long time, and Bob has been a leader for a very long time as well, and potentially Jack and other people here. And some of the employees here would have experienced working with leaders who are focused on their own agenda, getting results, yes, but in the process, harming the well-being of the employee. Examples would potentially relate to heavy workloads, overtimes, stress because of micromanagement, constant nagging, right? How can we get more engagement from our employees if our employees would feel that we are overburdening them? And there's a comment here, giving them assurance what will be their career growth path, building camaraderie, know their well-being from time to time. Yes, definitely, right? You're not their parent, by the way, but actually, here in the Philippines, that's one of the leadership styles that we have, right? You don't. It's true. You don't need to know everything about your employee, but you need to know enough, right? To show that you care and that you genuinely care for your employees, okay? And at the same time, when we are delivering this message, aside from the gestures, aside from the key message, of course, we need to organize the content of the message. And one way that you need to add in your organization are stories. Because when we engage employees using stories, we are able to utilize the different parts of the brain. And according to Ebbinghaus forgetting curve theory, majority of the things we learn, we actually forget within 48 hours. And if we can engage different parts of the brain, it will be more sticky for the audience to remember. So that's why we're using stories. Remember earlier, right? I was sharing an example, and there's a comment here. There's a long comment here. I love this. I love this. My supervisor seems to be a micromanager, and our team has observed her quick to panic voice over simple matters. Oh my gosh. Just imagine that, right? What's good though is that through our mid-year performance, she was open to feedback from us. So we were able to individually relate to her what we feel she could improve on as our manager. So keep this in mind. Thank you so much for this comment. This is gold, right? Because this is a case study of what's really happening on the ground. And again, based on the story, the manager was quick to panic. Okay. Uh, in the Philippine vernacular, she's panicky. Okay. So she's a bad girl. Sorry. That's a local that's a local joke. My apologies. And then so she's not perfect. Okay. She's not perfect, right? But then again, because she has a growth mindset, she's open. She became attuned to what the employees are feeling. Okay. So I hope that she's able to sustain the change. Okay. I hope she's able to sustain the change. Okay. But that's very good. Please feel free to share to us, what's the outcome of the story after a few months, maybe. So anyway, that's it. Use stories. If you will check my articles in the Manila Times, and I have an oncoming article in Manila's in Business World, you would see that all of my articles have stories. Okay? They have stories because that makes the topic relatable and people remember it more. And then, of course, we have what we call the different delivery styles. Okay? So we have the direct delivery style, which earlier somebody mentioned, oh, it's about commanding employees. Okay? It's not about commanding employees, but really more of influencing them. And the direct style typically is something that we use potentially when we are in a fast-paced environment. We need to get results immediately. We are in an emergency. We will be using a direct approach. And probably when we have a newbie, okay, we need to direct them and let them know what to do. Okay, that's a direct approach. Unfortunately, depending also on the personality type of the person, during emergencies, it can be good to be direct, but if abused, people will feel manipulated. Okay. Has any of you experienced any leader that's like that, was only commanding you to do stuff, do this, do that. No, not that. Thank you, Bob. How about the others? Can you let me know? Have you ever experienced that? Being under a leader who's so uptight and easily angered, and the the leadership style is too direct all the time. All the time they're being too direct. Okay, so that's one. And of course, we also have the expressive type of communication. Oh, there was a comment coming from Bob. Thank you. It was okay when I was new to the job, but got old. Yeah, true, right? That's true. That's true, right? Just imagine you've been at work for a very long time. You know what you're doing. And then they would tell you, hey, do this, do that. Especially if the manager is new and you've been working, you doing the job for a very long time. It's not a good style, right? So anyway, the other approach is actually being very expressive. There's always emotion, you know, when utilizing this particular communication style, right? So this one is good, of course, if you want to energize people, right? If you want to bring energy, typically, if you're working in the media or in the business process management sector, or you're dealing with yuppies or young professionals, this is a very good style. Okay. But if, let's say, for example, you may be working with more experienced employees, like employees in the 50s, or somewhere along that. But don't be a drama queen or king. Yes, agree. Correct, right? Agree. So being expressive may be good, right? But then again, depending on the situation, depending on your audience, because your audience may not have the same energy, and when they see you, you're exuding so much energy, they get tired. Okay. They get tired. And the tendency when you're being too expressive, sometimes you talk too fast. Okay. So I have that tendency. I'm very expressive. I'm very excited. But then again, depending on the audience, you can see when you watch the recording, you're watching this in YouTube live right now, you would see that I am modulating my voice. Sometimes it's quick, sometimes it's slow. Okay, it depends, right, on what we're talking about. And then at the same time, there at the other end of being directive is the diplomatic approach. Okay, the diplomatic approach is more of an asking question type of communication. Instead of being directive, you ask the person, what are your thoughts on that? What do you think caused this problem? What could be the root cause of the issue? What other options do we have? Instead of just commanding the employee, you can ask the employee. So generally, it's a good thing, being diplomatic in the way you communicate. But then again, the opposite, just imagine you are talking to a newbie and you're asking them, what are your thoughts on that? What do you think is the possible solution for that? And the newbie, of course, they're new. They wouldn't have an answer, right? So we also need to keep in mind the communication style that we use. And of course, we have the reserved, the careful one. Okay. Typically, when we are dealing with a bureaucratic organization or a tradition is very important. You need to be very careful with your wordings, like a legal proceedings, right? You may use the reserved approach, right? This one is very formal in the way they communicate. But then again, this is just an example of what you can see in uh, in our whole module. And of course, it's also important that depending on the situation, again, you would need to flex. Okay, you will need to be flexible in your communication style. Through the chat box, can you let me know what is your typical default when you're communicating? What is your typical default when you're communicating with someone? Okay, see? I'll wait for your responses. There's a personal message, direct. Okay, great. There's a comment, another comment coming from Milot. Diplomatic. Okay, great. And I'm assuming that you have tenured employees. There's a comment, direct and diplomatic. Yes, correct. You combine diplomatic according to Megan. Wingang is saying diplomatic. Okay. So again, okay, diplomatic and reserved according to Bob. And then diplomatic, there's another diplomatic in personal message, direct and expressive. Okay. Okay, thank you so much, Mary Grace. Okay, now why am I asking? Right? Right now, you have a learning that these are your communication styles. Now, I've shared to you the other communication styles so that at least you'd be aware, right? Am I overusing being directive? Am I overusing being diplomatic? Because there are always opportunities where you can be diplomatic, when you can be direct, right? Is it working right now for you? Probably yes, right? Especially during the pandemic, if you're working with your employees. How about the new ones? Because some of your, yeah, correct. I love that comment. There's a comment coming here from Milot. He shared depends on who you are with. Yes, it depends on who you are with, who's your employee, what's their preferred communication style. Yes. And especially culture may also play a role, right? That's why a part of our session, the whole program deals with culture. Milot is a woman. Thank you so much, Milot, for correcting me. You have a very unique name. Where are you? Where are you right now? Bob is saying I can also do expressive and be direct. Yes, yes, good job. Yes, thank you so much for that. And okay, so definitely we need to flex our communication style depending on the situation. And then of course, again, we need to flex. And finally, okay, finally, leading with a voice is only possible, according to Sally Helgesen, when one has reached a certain level of development as a person. Otherwise, the voice will not ring true. Ladies and gentlemen, right now, a lot of people are resigning. Employees are disengaged, and organizations experience several changes happening at the same time. Our employees needs us more than ever. And we need to have a certain level of development to lead with our voice. I hope that you talk to your HR or you personally take the whole program. I hope that you lead yourself, you lead your team, and you lead your organization to success using your leadership voice. There's more to come, and I look forward to seeing you in the whole program. I now give back the control of the proceeding to Ali for Q&A. You're welcome, Cheryl.
Yes, of course. Thank you so much, Sir George, for doing this wonderful discussion with us this morning. Of course, if anyone from the participants here have any questions, please do not hesitate to share it in the chat box. You can also do it via private message over to me or Sir George if you're kind of shy that everyone will going to see it. Okay. Okay, so here's one. I received one from Milot. Hi Ali, how can share my skills too in your oh you mean sorry, you meant this is a more rather close question rather. So I think we can discuss this further. You can reach out to us through our email at solution@quintegral.com. But any other questions regarding the topic today, please do let us know. We're open to answering all your questions.
Yes, maybe, Attorney Aaron, Frances, Sherry, Elaine, Evan, Romel. Yeah, there's a lot of people here. Feli, Angela, Jamesa, we'd appreciate if you have any question, just in case, which may not have been discussed here. Jane, Marek, wow, you have beautiful names.
Yes.
Maybe they're typing because they have a very long question.
Yeah, I heard everyone here really learned a lot from
Yeah.
today's session, Sir George.
Yeah.
It's very fruitful. A lot of the things that we usually, don't or neglect every day, how we communicate with our team. It's something that we overlook most of the time as leaders. So I think this is a very important topic to open or to discuss in today's work environment.
I agree. I agree. And I would say that I sincerely hope, that for companies would have the means to take the workshop, to really take it, because I genuinely feel that right now, with the current state of the workplace, right, it's really important that they're able to apply this. Now, there's a question: is this applicable to a multicultural group? Yes, 100%, right? Because again, as I shared earlier, a part of the discussion actually is going to be culture is actually a part of the discussion. So we need to so definitely the answer to your question is yes. And then there's a question: what if a particular employee has no plan to stay longer and just get employed for a short-term experience? Then definitely you need to have that conversation. You need to have that conversation. Like, let's say, for example, uh, what's the root cause? Why are they not planning to stay within the company? Is there an alignment? Is there, like a potential alignment that you can do so that the employee can stay? If not, then you can have that conversation and plan accordingly. At least you are aware that the person may not be staying for a long time. But then, of course, that's the last resort, right? But as much as possible, we try to identify what's the motivation for staying within the company, and then is there a way to align their personal goals to the business goals? That's something that we can also discuss if you plan to attend the session with us. But definitely a conversation, a further deeper conversation is necessary. Okay. And multi-generation group, yes, for sure, right, definitely, because there are differences in terms of culture, and there's also differences in generation, right? The way they talk. Do you have any ideas how to engage your employees activities, you as a leader? Well, I would say that the number one way to communicate with employees or to engage them in my personal experience is actually through coaching. Okay, through coaching. Check-ins, having one-on-ones with them on a regular basis. The successful organizations I work with that utilizes this actually have a system wherein there's a requirement that potentially, they need to coach their employees once a month or twice a week. My recommendation, personal recommendation, if your organization can afford it, at least twice a week. For some, they would say, once a month would be sufficient. But here in the Philippines, being we're a very collective society in terms of our culture. We're tightly knit. It's like a family. The work is actually like an extension of the family. So more interactions is better in terms of our culture. How long will the session be? Actually, the session is done. We're in the Q&A portion. There's another 9 minutes for the Q&A. You mean the whole thing? The whole program? Yeah. We can tailor fit it based on your need, I think. Right, Ali?
Yes, that's correct.
Yes.
But also, if you plan to join the open enrollment program, which is open to everyone, for the public, you can join that. That's a 2-day session for 8 hours each day. So
Okay.
actually, we're going to provide more details about that open enrollment in a while. But again, if you guys have any more questions that would like to ask us, please do let us know in the chat.
Okay.
We would
Yeah.
be
There's a
happy.
lot of questions that came in through chat. Yeah, I was able to answer most of them. Everything actually.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me see. There. Okay. And for those who are messaging me who wanted to uh, know more about the details about the training, just please type in your email so we can get in touch with you. Or you can also reach out to us if you prefer. That's a solution at quintigal.com. But yeah, if we don't have any more questions, I guess we can move forward with flashing on the screen the details. I may grab the screen from you, Sir George. Hold on. All right, there. So again, if you love what you learned here, of course, I know there's so much that we can learn from just a 1 hour webinar. Um, and most of the questions that we had earlier actually can be answered through some of the other modules that we have during the whole or the actual uh, 2-day program, which is the Voice of Leadership. That's how leaders inspire, influence, and achieve results. That will happen on October 17 to 18. So that's a 2-day session, 8 hours each. That's done through online, also on Zoom. And you can register through our website, of course, or you can also reach out to us through our email, that's solution@quintegral.com, or our Facebook page. You can also reach us, Quintegral Asia, and on LinkedIn, we're also there at Quintegral Philippines and Quintegral Singapore. Um, Again, thank you so much for joining us today. Before we let you guys go, if you can please give us the gift of feedback, we would love to hear from you. You can scan the QR code flashed on the screen or the link that will be provided in the chat. That's the evaluation form that we have. Please do let us know what went well today for you. What would you like us to discuss in the upcoming learning forum series for the rest of the year? As we do this monthly, I know some of you here are kind of familiar with what we do already. Every month we have this learning forum series where we tackle the latest, L&D topics. And also do a sneak peek, of course, of our actual programs from Quintigral. Again, thank you so much. If you don't have any further questions, we will be closing the program in a while. Just answer the feedback for now. And thank you and have a great weekend, everyone. Thank you.